I'm Samantha Betts.
Hello. My name is Mark Gonzalez. I'm a senior here at USD.
Hi, I'm Morgan Offenheiser. I'm a sophomore.
My name is Courtney Achenza, and I'm a sophomore.
My name is Victoria Benavides. I'm a sophomore here on campus.
Hi, my name is Sloan Smith.
Hi, my name is Lavanya Shubin. To me, diversity means the differences that we have that separates us from other people and makes us unique. And inclusion is creating a welcoming environment where people feel free to express who they are freely and openly and feeling.
And diversity inclusion means creating spaces where everybody feels safe and encouraged to share their true self.
I know a lot of people tend to think of it as a race issue, but I feel like it's more than that. I feel like it's age, gender, what else? Socioeconomic status. So to me, it's not just like a cut and dry one type of thing.
No one gets left out, and I think that that's never going to be able to completely happen, but I think that part of diversity inclusion is trying or attempting to do that.
There's an open seat at the table. There's an open door that's available to all to enter and to use, and I think it's just creating that welcoming space that all feel comfortable to enter into and ultimately are also invited to.
Well, diversity is just, obviously all around us there's diverse people, whether it's your background, where you come from, or just your personality, your likes or dislikes.
To me, inclusion and diversity is kind of a hard thing to define because I feel like we throw those two words around a lot on campus, and sometimes I feel like it's just kind of oh, well, we're so, we'll put it on the end of, some event or something. And so I'm not really sure, but I think it's just, being very welcoming of everyone and not having any judgments and just trying to reach out to as many students as possible and not just target one group.
The biggest problems we have is getting non-Latino students to come out to our events. And so, or just non-minority students. We might have a diverse group of students who come to our events, but they're just minorities.
And I was on the Inclusion and Diversity Committee, and I found out that was something that I was really passionate about. And so this year I've kind of just been trying as much as social media to share the UF's posts or just other people's posts in general, and just support the March of the Toreros or just the community lunches that the UF has. But it is hard because we don't directly meet with them all the time, and so there's kind of a gap, and it's just kind of we interact with them, or at least I interact with them only kind of online and not really talking to them.
We're trying to incorporate more diversity programming in Greek organizations. We've been having issues this semester with cultural insensitivity, especially as they pertain to social events and themes and that sort of thing. And so we're really looking to integrate more diversity related, whether it be sort of forum style where people present vignettes, or whether it be, whether it just be basic one-on-one sessions with how you can work to improve your practices in terms of what themes you're selecting and things like that with social chairs. And his feedback was that the men are not going to want to attend these events. And I feel sort of similar from the side of the women as well, and it's discouraging a little bit because we ask ourselves the question why, and for me and my observations, I think it really comes down to this discomfort with discomfort, and not necessarily. I don't think that there's anyone that doesn't appreciate diversity, but I think that there's a definite issue with being confronted with some kind of conflict. Not necessarily I want to fight you conflict, but this kind of your actions are impacting what I claim as my identity and making me feel uncomfortable.
Yes and no. Like I said, there's various offices. For example, CASA, UF. There are places that really work towards that every day. I think it's more of a mentality of the student body. kind of we are so wealthy, and it's in a way it's almost apathetic a little bit.
My title is not like multicultural programmer or anything. I still think I find challenges kind of just like even with the marketing or what I call my event, is it going to offend anyone? Or sometimes even when I want to collaborate with people, I sometimes don't know, like, if I don't ask one group or one organization, am I like being exclusive, and am I like not including them, and how do they feel about that?
So I think that's where the challenge is that it means different. It means something different to so many people.
As a student leader who is putting on events in the realm of multicultural programming, I think there's a lot of responsibility, and that's my number one challenge, because there are many issues with putting on multicultural events and trying to cater to the needs of all students, and it's very difficult being one student leader who's actually putting on these events and facilitating the needs of the entire student body. To really create an inclusive environment, it does take a community effort.
The main thing is that they don't know the resources that they have on campus. I think awareness is probably the biggest thing.
The culture we have on campus of, we live on a beautiful campus. Like, we're surrounded by beautiful people. So back to that idea of like people being uncomfortable with being uncomfortable, they don't want to admit that things aren't going great. And so when you're feeling disconnected, instead of saying, hey, I'm not doing great, like, I want to reach out to people and, I need a little bit more connection in my life, they kind of turn inward.
Back to, like, the UF, we would talk about last year, like, how can we stop the divide between the third and the fourth floor even. Like, it's just, like, a physical space, but it's still very, like, I don't usually go up there, and like you usually don't see them down here.
I think a lot of the problem results in the lack of communication between these entities, and so I think that's what's causing the disconnect. A lot of students are simply not aware of all the resources that are available on campus and what they do. And I think if there was more transparency with the work that different students are doing, but also what administration is working on, I think students could understand what USD is doing, where we're going, and then find their role in all of this and try to create a more inclusive environment.
It's kind of interesting. I have noticed these things. I feel a little disconnected maybe to certain people, but I feel like a lot of times when people ask me that, like, why do you feel disconnected, they tie that to unhappiness, and I don't want to give that off. Like, I'm super happy here. I could not be more happy to be at USD. Right. So it's kind of like a paradox. I see some things that this school could definitely work on, but I still feel very at home and very happy here.
I mean, it could just be like walking across campus and like I see somebody that I know and like I wave at them.
I definitely felt connected through the student body. And I realized that once I arrived onto campus during Welcome Week or during orientation days, I very vividly remember other students helping me move into my room through the orientation team, Torero T Squad, and I think that was really the first instance where I saw the selflessness and the service that aspects of this university that ties really well with Inclusion Diversity. I feel like explore and have dialogue about Inclusion Diversity requires a sense of selflessness and a sense of service where one can take themselves out of their shoes and empathize with another person, and to be with the person, not just around.
I don't totally feel connected to this campus at this point, and I think a lot of it has to do with this disconnection with people who don't want to engage with these hard issues. That's kind of the core of my being at this moment is really trying to find those spaces where I'm surrounded by people who are who want to have these conversations with me, because I think that these are the pieces that really make you feel human, really make you feel whole, really make you feel the things that you're talking about are worth talking about.
I bring a separate, unique identity to this campus, being a South Asian student, and I wasn't able to find an avenue where I could express my culture and be able to share it with other students. So when I found out that Terra Program Board had a multicultural programming coordinator and that position was open, I decided I would try to apply for that because I wanted students to be able to see my culture, and I knew that there were many students on campus that wanted a space where they could share their culture as well.
thing, like in your culture and stuff, but then sometimes I find myself thinking if you're having, this is the Black Student Resource Center, is that, by, singling them out, is that making them more, off to the side? But then also at the same time, it's it's better to acknowledge it and to, embrace it than to not have anything at all.
From what I've seen, I think, there is, an inclusive community because I haven't really heard anything, but then again, maybe, my roommates or something, they wouldn't say, oh, I don't feel included at USD. I guess that's maybe not a topic that we talk about a lot.
What inhibits us to really reach that is a disjointed effort, and I think also clashing of the different values that are connected to this university. Right, as a Roman Catholic institution, there are things within the Catholic Church that may conflict with what we, as students and as administrators, faculty, teach to our students and teach to each other. So I think those values and the clashing of those values may and often inhibit the work of our mission statement.
I think that even as a student leader, I'm hyper aware every time I fill out an EVR that I should be looking for some way to incorporate some aspect of diversity and inclusion in the things that I'm creating. On the other side, sometimes I think that that is used as a guise to sort of pass these EVRs. I think that I think diversity and inclusion is a very easy thing to create, but it's not, or to say that you're creating, but to actually create, to make that space and those conversations around those issues happen is a totally different thing.
There is a disconnect, and they're not really understanding what the university is doing. So we've started the mission, and I think we need to fulfill and see that through. And so maybe that will take some time, but I know that this has been a generational issue. It's been something that's been talked about for the last 30 years, and progress has been made. But as new classes come in and go, they're not able to see the change that's happened over a long period of time. So I think it helps to have administration on campus to put that into perspective and to continue to guide that vision.
It comes down to being self-reflective.
Diversity is not just minorities working together.
Right.
Diversity is everyone.
I try my best every day to be as inclusive as possible, and like I said, even if it's something as simple as just I'm going to share the diversity banquet deadline has been extended.
Having conversations with students around campus, my friends, my colleagues, those that I work with on the professional level, within the staff, here in the Student Leadership and Involvement Center, I think just setting time and really just the really desire and the want to have a conversation with someone.
But I think the biggest thing that's come out of this year is the student-led dialogue about inclusion and diversity. It's often very difficult for students to get vulnerable and talk about their backgrounds. It makes us uncomfortable sometimes to acknowledge the privileges that we have or the differences that we see between us and our peers. But it's very important to talk about those differences because I think when you start exploring what makes you different from someone else, you have a better understanding of what makes this university.
This really speaks to the immense power of allyship. The whole picture is greater than the sum of its parts. Diversity adds so much value to organizations, and we cannot lose sight of this. Here's my call to action for you all. To those graduating in your future roles, you will likely have an important opportunity through the lens of one of your dominant identities. You can create real change and opportunities for someone who is from an often targeted or marginalized group. Take advantage of this opportunity to support someone who may be part of the other group. It is imperative that we have open dialogue around various social identities. We cannot just wish them away. Instead, we must meet the challenges head on and serve as an advocate for others, not because it benefits one group over another, but because it's socially just. We must rise together through diverse excellence.